Hello, this is Steve.
And William.
And we're here, as always, to do the Who Am I podcast. Hope you're all well. This week we are kind of following on from the attraction episode that we did, and moving on to same-sex attraction and discussion on thoughts, feelings, as always. I guess a footnote before we get into anything is that we are two Western white males that are just exploring our perspectives and understanding and trying to increase our understanding and our love and our general knowledge of these things within our, within the world and the people that we meet. And if we falter or fumble, then that's, we're trying to do our best. And as always, we will take it from the point of view that that we want to learn. That's literally ultimately it. And we want to learn more about ourselves, and we can do that by learning more about others. And so that's why we've kind of chosen the LGBTQ plus and same-sex attraction concepts and reality for today. I guess starting off, it's something that's always been personal to me. Like from a young age, people often asked if I was gay. Like it was a common thing because I was a bit more, I guess, feminine. Again, we have these traits that we define as masculine and feminine.
We also all have estrogen and testosterone inside of us.
Yeah, so from a biological point of view, from a psychological point of view, it gets blurry and mixed up because what was fascinating about the emotional point of view is that they were classed as feminine emotions, but to me, they're just human emotions. Mm-hmm. We often blur the lines, and it was funny how, some people were like, oh, you're gay, you're bi, bisexual, being attracted to both male and female. But then you've got attraction, kind of dying a bit all over the place here, but you've got attraction of physical, and then you've got attraction of, personality or intellectual. We talked about that in the previous episode, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so people can be attracted to same sex from a physical point of view or an emotional point of view. So that they could be attracted to the feminine, emotional, what we class as, again, I class them as human, but for the sake of this, we'll just keep them to how the general population defines them. And how, showing emotion, nurturing, crying, expressing those emotions are seen as feminine. You could be attracted to that because it's sensitive, or you could be attracted to what's classed as, defined as masculine, where it's like, okay, I don't show emotion, I am assertive, I am, what other kind of traits can you think of that relate to the masculine, I guess, stereotypically?
Giving orders rather than taking advice or absorbing information from others, handing it out.
Yeah. So that always kind of blew my mind that just because I was emotional, many people made the assumption, and that made me question. I when I hit puberty, even before that, I was attracted to girls. You have that whole, like, when you're younger, girlfriend, boyfriend, and whether that was again cultural or internal, whatever. To me, that's just the way it was. I liked girls, and then same when I got older, like women. But I always questioned, do I like men? Am I attracted to men? Mm-hmm. Because that's part of growing up, I guess. And two, because it was constantly put on me from people. And, and it still is. It's fascinating. Even this week past, people go, are you sure you're not bi? Like, we know you like women, but are you sure you don't like men? And I'm like, no, I'm not physically attracted to men. And that's where it comes down to me. I actually am attracted to some of the personality traits that are stereotypically classed as male, but I see those in a lot of the women that I have dated, those traits, and therefore I can be like, well, I like those traits, but that's just the way it is. So it's been a really interesting topic for me over the years, and I've been really trying to get involved in that community for a number of reasons.
What does that mean, getting involved in that community?
Being amongst people that are under the LGBTQ plus bracket. That's, I guess, define it just for the sake of the podcast. L, lesbian, gay, G, bi, B, T, transsexual, Q is queer. And
yeah, I was going to ask you about the Q, but go on.
yeah, I think
There's
Q
I
and
and
Q,
A.
there's I and A as well, which I think, from what I remember, again, I haven't researched enough because I'm ignorant. That's the wrong word, but like, just I prefer to learn from meeting people, I guess, rather than
Yeah.
reading it. So I haven't actually explored reading it. I think it's intersex. I guess we could Google it, I guess. But and then A, I think is either asexual or, yeah, I could be completely wrong, and someone can correct me. Quite
androgynous, is that possible?
happy to. Maybe. Let me have a look. Because again, this is important for our own education. Trying to find it. There we go. QIA. A can be asexual or ally. That's cool.
Oh, interesting.
The Q can be queer and or questioning. Yeah, I is intersex. I'm not sure what that means exactly.
That perhaps,
but again, it's just sorry, go on.
Perhaps you feel like you are part male, part female.
Yeah, so I've always
between.
Yeah, that might be that. Because I know that you've got non-binary. Maybe that's as well.
Yeah.
Non-binary is.
Yeah, it's not only who you're attracted to, but also what you identify as.
Yes, that is an important thing, actually. Yeah, it's an important thing to state, is that it encompasses, again, the who am I, as in who am I as a person, and also who am I attracted to.
So I'm curious about the word queer, because, you know, in another sense, it just means strange or foreign or weird.
I think it's being taken back, because obviously it used to be an insult for a while, in this country at least anyway. I don't know about elsewhere. But if you were like, oh, you're queer, it was seen as a derogatory term for just, again, being weird or being gay.
But now it's becoming normal, right?
Yeah, which is, I think, good, actually, because again, being queer, again, the queer in terms of being just different and unique, and I actually like it for that reason. I think that's actually a great word to define what I would class myself as. But again, the great thing about these words is they encompass many different meanings. So again, one person can take queer within the LGBTQ plus community as meaning one thing, and somebody else could take it as meaning another, but that's just how they identify. That's just what they identify it with. Yeah,
tell me what meanings you've come across.
Well, usually it's homosexual. Usually the base definition of queer in terms of within this bracket would mean being homosexual. But I think because you've already got the LGBT part of it, I think it means that, well, it can mean that, and it can also mean, again, branching out to just being different and unique.
Other than hetero, right? It could mean various things.
I think that as well.
And that's why I like the questioning part about it too, that you're not sure. You know, for many people, this is a discovery process.
Okay. Yes, it's okay just to take it in your own time and figure it out yourselves. And that's another reason I love that community, a community that I actually, again, I identify with in many ways, just because I think, and yeah, I'm going to say it anyway, but I have all the different groups of people I've spent time with throughout my life. They are, generally speaking, from what I can tell, the most loving, kind, respectful, and needing of love as well. Like, and I think that's why I fit in, because I need love. As a person, as a human being, I need loving people around me. Like, that is what I need. And so, and not just a superficial love, because that does happen, but an actual deep, meaningful, they care for you and love you for who you are, no matter what. Again, that's the key, is that no matter what you are, who you are, what you define yourself as, they encompass that, they welcome it, even if mainstream society has ostracized you for it.
Could we say there's a parallel between that and what depressed people go through? So I'll give you an example of what I mean. Because of my depression, I could call my depression a superpower, because it has forced me to deal with lots of psychological topics, get to understand myself better, and have more insights about the world and other people as well in the process. And do you think that queer people have had to, deal with questions that other people just aren't confronted with, and therefore they have learned more about human interactions, relationships, and the nature of love?
I think that would probably be a great way of defining it. I think because they've had to go through that process, that very difficult, like we with the podcast, Who Am I? That figuring out who we are is more complex for them and us than it appears to be for most people in mainstream society.
I guess we take for granted that many people take for granted that their sexuality just kind of works, that they're surrounded by many people who are like them, and on the other hand, who are their complement. And when they get together, things just click, but it doesn't always have to be that way.
No, it's very often not that way for the minority who are unique and different. And again, the difference is a great topic of discussion, a difficult one, but a really important one, because the opposing, again, the inner love that the group tend to have is opposed probably equally by the amount of hate that they receive because they're different. So, like, I mean, let's go back in time and look at, the persecution and the hatred towards, let's just stick to, again, I guess, homosexuality, because that's in the past was the main thing that was opposed, because they hadn't had most people who were probably other brackets of the LGBT community had to hide even more what they were. And it's only been the last 100-200 years that homosexuality is not illegal. Like, how messed up is that? Like, just because of who you love, again, it's consenting. There's no non-consensual scenario here. That's what's happening. It's a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, who love each other. And for that, literally just because of that, they were killed and put in prison, put in mental hospitals, electrotherapy, hosed like the cold waters, and like imprisoned, and it's just, and still are in many countries, and they're stoned to death in various countries, head chopped off, like, just for being homosexual. And it's something that's always just broken my heart, and it's probably again another reason why I identify with the community, because I want to counter that hatred that still exists in many forms. And so, like, it's one of the things where I guess, where's the root of it? And I think we kind of talked about a little bit in Attraction, I think, with
root of what exactly?
The hate, the prejudice against.
Yeah. I guess we did. So the first thing that comes to my mind is when a society has a worldview that does not allow for anything but heterosexual people, and they're confronted with these outliers, you could say, who don't fit into that worldview. They just like scientists, because I was a researcher, it always reminds me of this. They in order to keep the theory alive, they will suppress the evidence of data that goes against the theory. So that's putting it nicely and abstractly, but like you said, they will persecute or even kill people who do not fit into that prototypical human. And I guess because they don't want to learn about what's going on, how is this possible, they will just put it off as a sickness that I don't know if some people actually take this seriously, but I imagine they will come up with excuses like it's a sickness and we don't want it to spread, and therefore we need to.
Well, that's a massive issue. Even today, again, in the past and today, where again we make jokes about it in some of the communities, but oh no, like again, with some of the friends that I have who identify in what I like to call the pride community, like again the LGBTQ plus can be a bit of a tongue tie. And so I like to say the pride, because again, they take pride in, and they have the rainbow and all that amazing symbolism. And so in the pride community, where they make jokes like, oh no, you're going to catch queer, or you're going to catch gay if you spend too much time with me. And it's like, that is a genuine ideological belief that has gone on over, again, 100, 200 years, and where they've tried to cure it. They think it's a thing that can be cured. Like, again, this is probably bad of me, but to Mormon bash a little bit, but I think it's in the 50s that BYU did electric shock therapy on people who were homosexual. And that's a whole level of evil that I can't even comprehend. To think that doing that can cure love. Like, what? Like, it's, yeah, but I won't go down that rabbit hole too much just now. But again, in mainstream society as well, they've done that, tried to cure a basic human function and need for love, and want for love. So yeah, that's, I guess, the setup for this discussion. Talk about my own personal experiences. Do you have any personal experiences, with pondering, or people you've met that have helped answer questions to do with any questions you've had about, again, homosexuality? Or
yeah, I can think of 2 gay friends that I have, and 1 transsexual friend. Is transsexual and transgender the same? Or do people make any difference there?
I think so. Again, my brain is terrible.
I've never heard of any differences in meaning.
I think it's the same.
And the trans friend helped me understand a bit. He was also quite analytical, so that kind of helped. Yeah. He could kind of use my language.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
So transgender people are people whose gender identity is different from the gender they were thought to be at birth. That's transgender. Let me go to
based on their organs, right?
Yeah. And transsexual. Donating or relating to a transgender person, especially one whose bodily characteristics have been altered through surgery or hormone therapy to bring them into alignment with their gender identity.
So they seem to be interchangeable, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Seems to be. Cool. Okay.
This trans friend told me a bit about his experience. He was also a germaphobe. I don't know if that's related, but he definitely had mental health issues. He tried to describe to me what gender dysphoria is like, and I still don't know much about it. I don't know if it's just a trans thing, or if it's a queer thing in general, that you're kind of at odds with what your body indicates you are. And it's like, I guess it's like being in a prison, because you're kind of forced physically to identify or to work a certain way physically that you don't feel you are.
Yeah. That must be hell.
That's about the best I can do in describing it.
Again, yeah. To me, that's like, again, when I think and feel about my friends, again, who are also trans, to think and like that you're in a body that isn't the right one, basically. Like, it's not what it's supposed to be. And yeah, that must be.
And then being difficult. A transvestite somehow quells that dysphoria.
Well, transvestite is different, I think.
No, yeah, sure. It's not the same thing. It's just wearing the clothes of the other gender. Yes. So this trans, well, I don't even know how to, whether they want to be called a man or a woman, because let's go there for a minute.
Yeah, let's go there.
So someone with a penis who feels they're a woman will call themselves a transgender woman, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this this transgender person with a penis.
But they might get surgery to remove and stuff as well. Yeah.
Yes, but who started out with a penis? Found a little bit of comfort, of minimizing that pain by dressing like a woman. And I had no problem with that. I thought
Oh, yeah.
it was good that he had the courage, the determination to overcome the societal expectation that he dressed like a man. And so this was also someone I met at church, and I maybe church members have an even stronger expectation for him to dress like a man, but he managed to dress like a woman. I think he took it in steps. I think he started out with a what are those skirts called that Pacific men wear? He's that
Hula skirt, grass skirts, is that?
yeah, possibly. He started out with that. That helped him a little bit, but after a while, after I had left the ward, he I saw pictures on Facebook of him being, totally from head to foot being dressed like a woman.
Yeah.
And I thought, hey, if that helps you, it doesn't offend me in any way. So I'm glad that you're able to do that now.
Well, the interesting thing is the pronouns. So if in that situation they do identify as a woman, they will want to be called she, and they'll have a name, changed name most likely. If they are transvestite, it tends to be that they're happy being man and knowing that they are a man, but enjoy wearing women's clothes. That's the difference. Tends to be. So it might be a transition of going through wearing a clothes as a man and being like, I'm a man wearing women's clothes and I enjoy this because that's what transvestite is. They're actually happy being a man. Then you've got transsexual, who is someone who wants to actually be a woman, well, who is a woman, and was born a man, so they want to change that. So I think the difference is between staying that way and the change to what they should have been ultimately.
Yeah, it's really interesting how those things work in stages and how the person themselves.
But sometimes you just flip. Sometimes some people are like, actually, you know what? My whole life I've been denying this, but actually I'm a woman, and then fully change. Then other times it's a transition.
Yeah. I've heard of cases of people of someone's body being in a state where their sexual organ was not fully formed and was still, they've already been born. Usually our sexual organ is determined before birth, but it's possible for someone's body to be undetermined. I don't know what it looks like, but I think puberty is then the latest where the body, I guess, has to decide what organ to produce. So that's fascinating. I have no idea how that works or how that person feels.
Well, it's great that, again, we're now in a culture and society where we can explore this more. Because in the past, such things were just seen as wrong or a malfunction, and it's like, no, this is a person and who has feelings, and they are the way they are, and again should be loved and cared for no matter what, and if not even more so that they don't feel different, they don't feel like left out or anything, because there are biological cases, and this got brought up recently, I won't go into why, but brought up in a conversation about men who have two penises and women who have two vaginas.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's a thing, and biology is diverse and it is beautiful, and no matter what the situation is, it's, again, to me, maybe I'm just in my own little bubble, but it's so bizarre how there's so much, again, discrimination. It's so confusing, and why there's not enough more love. But we're in a good transition in society. Like I was talking about this the other day about so really, it came up a few times this last couple of weeks where I say our age group and beyond really struggle with pronouns. I still put my hands up and say, often I slip up, and instead of being, so for non-binary people, they want, they, their, them, and not he's or she's. So they're non-binary, so they don't want to be associated with any male, female. And so every so often I'll slip up, and I'm just like, stupid Stephen, try to do better. And it's even more difficult for previous generations because, and it was described very interesting to me, is that someone said to me, they're trying to be better at using the right terminology, but they've never had to before. It's never been a thing, especially in childhood and teenage years, where our development that's the point where we learn a lot of the behaviors and learn a lot of things. and having to reprogram that is like learning another language. And I was like, yes, that's actually really true. It is very much like learning another language. And so both sides have to be very patient with each other. The younger generation who are able to now explore more and to be themselves and express non-binary and transgender. Both sides have to be loving and accepting. Otherwise, there's going to be confrontation. Because I have friends who are amazing, in my again, who are loving and kind, and if someone messes up, it doesn't even faze them. They're like, okay, cool, just remember next time, try to be better in getting the pronoun correct. And other people who will just be like, will literally just jump on your back and be like, what is wrong with you? You should be getting my pronoun right. And I think that puts people off.
Yeah, can we talk a minute about why it's so important to some people to be called by a certain pronoun? Because let's say, so this reminds me of this whole debate with Jordan Peterson that I'm not very familiar with.
Yeah.
He says it's not the case that we should all just adapt and use the pronouns that certain people want us to use. He says there's also something that there's also disadvantage to us if those expectations are put on us, and I don't fully understand what it is. I just know for myself that I sometimes feel put under pressure to adapt.
Yeah.
And yes, I do want to learn and I don't want to hurt anyone, but let me take it at my own pace, you know? Don't get mad at me, because if you are trans or something other than hetero and you feel pain, and that's real pain, I'm not pushing that aside, and if you feel pain because I used a pronoun that you're not comfortable with, then that's not entirely my responsibility. We share in the responsibility. You know, it ideally, in an ideal world, I think it should be like, I misspelled your name. That's how bad it should be, but it's not. And could you shed some light on that? Like how is using the wrong...
It's more serious than that. It's like me calling you a woman, or me calling you Hitler because you're German. Like literally, it's like that's the level of because it's wrong. Like it's not the right, correct one, and especially in a podcast like this, I guess. Who am I? Our identities are so important to us.
Yeah.
And to me, again, it's specifics, because to me, I actually think I class myself as non-binary, but but I class myself as human. I'm just a human. I am male, female. I'm everything in that respect. Not again in terms of my identity, not sexual attraction, but identity. But I don't mind. I don't care. Like for me personally, people can call me Jiminy Cricket, and that's okay to me. But for some people, it is so important because for all their lives, they've had no identity. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they stand for. They don't know what to be, or who they are. And now they found that. It's so important. Once you find that, it's like the first time that you felt the Holy Spirit in the church, like with you know, when you feel the Holy Spirit and you want to tell everyone about the church and what it's about, and you suddenly for a year or two or more become this obsessed, at least I did, a person where I just like told everyone and how happy it made me and that kind of stuff. At that time, you know, things changed. I evolved, moved on. But for them, it's the same kind of feeling where they have found a truth, and that truth is themselves. And for someone to get that wrong, yeah, as you say, it's painful. It hurts them, and that's why I guess why it's so important to them. Does that make any sense? Does that answer that? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I think I'll need time, you know. I think I'm just
at your own pace. That's a really important point that you made.
Yeah, exactly.
That we should all be allowed to do it at our own pace.
I don't feel the need to bend over backwards for other people.
Yeah, I do.
I do. Right, and I'm not saying I know what is the best degree of adaptability. I just feel like I'm not as easy to change how I speak, but I do love people in general.
Yeah, you do.
And I
Yeah.
know that it helps me when, like you said in the beginning, I deal with the people directly, not with
Yes.
words on paper,
Yes.
because then I can actually see that the pain in their eyes, maybe,
Yeah.
and they can tell me about it. And you know, when people speak, um, not over Zoom, not through texting, but actual speak in person, a lot more gets exchanged than just
Yeah. There are
sounds.
energies that gets, yeah, that
Yeah,
get changed.
there's a lot unexplored, and so I like it when I get the chance to learn more directly that way.
Yeah.
But this
And
is helpful too.
yeah, but that's difficult in life sometimes. Like, I'm very lucky and very fortunate to constantly meet people from all different backgrounds. Kind of because I throw myself into that, to be fair. And therefore I get those interactions, and constantly reminded again the human side. And I think that's kind of linking back to the history of it. I think that's one of the problems is that, like any propaganda or discrimination, you demonize the difference. So going back to like the Catholic Church, especially of all things, they demonized homosexuality. Like it's them that did it as a church, an organization, the higher up people chose and made those laws to discriminate against people who are homosexual because they saw it as a sin, but because it was to them it was different, and it goes against their constructed value of the family. Like they think that the family is just man, woman, children, which, as we know, is not the case. A family can be anyone, and so those prejudices were put on the general population, and through fear of difference, through fear of against God, and so people just lapped that up over centuries, literally centuries and millennia, against people of people who are homosexual.
Yeah, I believe that you are not dependent on your clergy to tell you the will of God.
Yeah, very much. Yeah,
Because in your point there, I think you were thinking of Middle Ages, but still now.
But they won't tell you that though. The clergy will tell you that you are dependent on them.
They claim the sole right to tell you what is the will of God and how to interpret scripture and so on. But I believe that you can and sometimes I want leadership, like we talked about libertarianism in the past. Sometimes the wisdom and the guidance of someone more experienced is very valuable, but often that position, that power, that authority gets abused. But I believe that every individual has the ability to have a direct line with God and to find out for himself what is the will of God, and can then compare that with what they're being told.
Yeah. Again, it's feelings. Again, like we just talked about spending time with people. Like, again, it's interesting that we've gone into the religious side of things, because again, according to most scenarios, they contradict each other, but they shouldn't, because technically, if you go by the New Testament, especially with love thy neighbor as thyself, judge not lest ye be judged, all these things denote that there shouldn't be a discrimination against that, like against homosexuality. Like literally, it's right there in front of you, as a very obvious, clear message. And yet it got distorted, and again through leadership, through basically scared little boys, like again men in charge of areas who didn't want to lose their power. And so fear is a great motivator, and again you pick something different to discriminate against, that will keep everyone in line. That'll keep them focused, their energies focused on that thing. And I'm just so grateful. Like, I am so happy and glad we live in a society that is the way it is. Again, there's still so many flaws. There's still so many issues that still need to be sorted out in terms of, again, discrimination. But it's getting better. It's getting there. We're getting there slowly. And the love that is blossoming, and the acceptance, again, especially the upcoming generation, I see it. My nieces, I went round there and they were talking about it. They were talking about different sexualities, and they're 13 and 12, and how, to me, that's actually very important to understand that from such a young age, and so that when you meet people or you find out who you are, you're able to express that. There's nothing worse than having to lie about who you are. Like,
And
that's expression.
You see it in the media as well. You know how basically every comedy show in the last 30 years has had at least one gay guy, and they're constantly made fun of. And because it's a cheap source of jokes, and but it supports that stereotype. And recently I watched Star Wars Episode 9 for the first time, and in the end, when everyone's celebrating, I think it just flashed for a quick second, but I think there were two women who kissed.
Yeah, kissed, make out.
And I thought, oh, that's new. That
Disney
was unexpected.
But especially Disney for people to finally. But again, it's good that they are doing this. But again, it's that there's a level of slowness and reluctance from the bigger companies like Disney to do so, because again, they're afraid, especially of middle America and white Christian, and not just white Christian, actually just made Christian extremists and the extreme right, who still have a massive homophobic culture because of, again, religion. But it's nice again to see Disney there. I was disappointed because there was a lot of talk about Poe and Finn in Star Wars, because they were leading towards potentially being a couple. Like, there was so many different indications that could have been the case. One of the biggest, which always makes me smile, is the fact that Poe gives Finn his jacket. So in American culture, the jocks and cheerleaders, whatever, if a jock gives you the jersey or jacket, whatever it's called, that's a symbol of you're dating or whatever, or you're a couple. And I was just like, please let this be the case. Let it be out in the front, not hidden behind the scenes, not just a little thing in the background. But then again, at the same time, making it just in the background is also potentially, again, depends how on your viewpoint, a good way of doing it, because it's just there. It's better than nothing, right? Yeah, it's better than nothing, but it's also normalizes it in a way, because it just happens. That's what it should be. We shouldn't have to have these conversations. Ultimately, I look forward to the day when this isn't even a thing. Like, that actually everyone is so comfortable and happy with this, that it's bizarre that we have to have these conversations, like, in my head.
Usually sexuality is something that you don't talk about with anyone, but just with a very close friend. But it's kind of forced to be talked about more openly and with strangers, because of how people feel when they are treated wrongly. Because
it's been a minority and still is. Again, we talked about it before in different scenarios, when one group of people is it marginalized or whatever the term is, like, put to the one side. To counter that, they have to go to the other extreme and be like, look at me, notice me, and make sure that you're paying attention to make the change. Again, suffragettes with women's rights, Martin Luther King, Black rights, it all requires people to make an impact for the change to then go from one extreme to the other and then balance out.
I like that view, because I sometimes think that the pride stuff is too big. Like you said, it should be totally normal for us to talk about this stuff, but for them to put on big flashy parades and
express themselves that way and
ask for all this attention, feels like intrusive almost. And I don't like the term pride so much. I mean, it has different connotations. Let me explain.
Go for it.
So if I'm proud of what my child did, of some achievement, then that's a good sort of pride. But if it's like, oh, look at me, I did this, that's a negative connotation of pride. And so if someone says, oh, look at me, I'm different, well, I don't know if this is what they're saying, but this is what kind of comes across to me, right? Look at me, I'm queer, you have to acknowledge me, you have to change your mind on me. And I'm thinking, okay, let me get there.
What
get
about
out of my
missionaries?
face.
What about missionaries?
missionaries are salesmen.
Yeah, they have to go out there and be in your face and stuff, and that's generally accepted within a culture. And then you have, so you have sometimes the pride to do what you want to do.
Yeah, I was a bit intrusive as missionary. I was.
Well, you're taught to be. You're taught to be. You're told to be intrusive. You're told to be.
Well, we might be talking about different things. When I say intrusive, I mean like not giving people an out easily, and kind of like being offended when someone doesn't want to listen to me. And this is a really good comparison, I think.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's already intrusive just by knocking on someone's door, or what? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. People don't want to be that everything's interrupted. Like.
Well, in that sense, every ad online on TV is intrusive, right?
Yeah.
Because you didn't opt in.
Yeah, it's difference between not what you do, how you do it, I guess. It's it's just socially, it's just again social constructs, socially acceptable to.
Yeah, that's why as a missionary,
ads.
I had to learn to be more understanding and loving and careful and respectful of people's views and situations.
Yeah.
And that's really the only way to reach them anyway.
Yeah.
So even though
the price stuff is contained though. This is what's interesting is that the Pride stuff is they'll do a once a year, it's Pride Day or weekend or whatever. You don't have to be there for that part of it. Whereas with missionaries, they come to your door and they project that onto you, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. It's an interesting.
Let's talk about the war paradigm for a few minutes. Take, for example, the term ally.
Yes.
That is a war. That is from a war context. That there are two factions at war with each other, and the media loves to use this paradigm, especially the American media, like war on terror, or there is a war on a virus right now, and
war on truth, fake news.
Yeah, and so we're all warriors and soldiers, and we have to give it our all, and we will never give up, and we won't let the others prevail.
Yeah.
And I hate that, because what we're talking about is getting rid of hate, and you can never use hate to get rid of hate.
No.
You need to unify.
Yep.
You need to come to some understanding, even if it's just live and let live. You don't have to participate if you just allow others to be who they are.
Bingo. And that works on both sides. That's again
exactly
the important thing is that again, from a religious point of view, from a business point of view, from a politics point of view, from a LGBTQ plus point of view, from a pride point of view, we should all just be getting along, let each other do what we want to do, and simple, because none of our choices actually affect us. Like again, knocking on someone's door, actually it's like, okay, cool, thank you for stopping by, don't want to listen, bye, closed door. It's not actually having an effect. Again, those people, to use a term that actually I love, which I hate it being used in this context, but I'm going to use it anyway because I'm a hypocrite, is the whole snowflake thing. So like actually a lot of people who close doors on people coming around just to talk about religion or something, they're behaving in a way that would be classed as, again, the snowflake mentality, where it's you're not having patience or understanding and being offended very easily. There is a double standard quite often, I find, between that and then accepting, like you say, adverts online, like bombarded by them constantly, and no one goes, hey, that's probably actually a bad thing.
Yeah, I can understand they want to make money, so I take it.
And it's again, that's always fascinated by me about gay marriage. We kind of talked a little bit about last time in one of our previous sort of chats, not I don't on a podcast, but just in chats in general, where there seems to be a desire to stop people who are in the LGBTQ plus community from being married. And again, that's come from the religious side of things, obviously, because marriage has just been seen to be an institution of God. But even from a point of view of it being a civil marriage and stuff, there is still a lot of discrimination. But again, if people are doing their own thing in their own ways, and it's all based on choice and free will, because fundamentally that's the concept that I think we all try and fundamentally at the root of all of our discussions as human beings, not in the podcast, but human beings often, are to do with the ability to have free will. But that also means that other people should also have the ability to have free will.
Yeah.
And again, equality. If I have these rights as a human, somebody else, as long as their choice doesn't hurt anyone, then they are entitled to those rights as well. So yeah, it's been fascinating to explore that over my lifetime of 33 years to try to figure it all out. Again, my own identity and what is okay and not okay, I think. Like what is, and again, it, like I've always tried to do, is comes back to love. Like if you love people, you'll do your best. Like that's what happens. You'll try to support them in their exploration of the self. And I think we both do that. I think we're both very good at following that through. Again, we take pride in our, not arrogance, not over like blowing up of our own ability, but I think that, yeah, hopefully it translates in what we're saying, what we're talking about, that we are trying to show love and kindness.
Yeah.
And understanding.
We try to understand ourselves and find ways to change, because so many people, no, everybody is programmed to think a certain way, to act a certain way. And one of the main topics of this podcast, for me at least, is freedom. And I think the more I try to explore what is freedom and what freedoms am I looking for, because I'm not always clear on that, is freedom from being programmed and just going along to get along. I want to get rid of that. I want to understand what's really going on. And since everybody's perspective is unique, there's huge potential to expand your own by getting to know them.
Yeah. As you were talking about the ally stuff and the war type propaganda within like what was the context within
media, for example. And just getting us to be at odds with each other.
Yeah, I think
to be a dichotomy rather than a union.
Yes, I think all institutions that are trying to make money and have power will always try to divide and cause fear. And I think that's pretty much sums up a lot of what the discussion was about, and how the reason that there's so much discrimination against the difference is because of that, because of people in power that want power and want money. They use those tools to divide us when actually we should be loving and caring. And again, probably the third or fourth time I said this, current generation just blows my mind. In the next 30, 40 years, as they come up, and again, it's chaotic. Again, right now, it's a mixing pool of all these ideas. We're in such a nexus and a matrix of ideas and philosophies and perspectives that it's very difficult for people. It's very difficult for people to know what the heck am I supposed to be is okay, what is right, what is wrong. And again, I tried to stay away from those terms, because actually it's all, again, 99% of it is right. It's just different. It's just different, and we just have to learn to love that difference. But that's not easy, like you say, when you've been programmed, when you've been taught certain ways your whole life, and then you finally realize, actually, maybe I'm not comfortable with this, or maybe I should explore this more. And we encourage everyone that listens to keep doing what they're doing, because I think most people that listen to this probably actually already are miles down the path, probably way further than we are in the understanding of these things. And we just keep doing our best to spread the love and acceptance and help others get to that point as well, together, unified, in a way that brings peace. Because again, as I said, there's so much confusion, there's so much again, different ways of thinking, that it's easy to get lost in that and become fearful of anything new, because you've already got so much. But again, we can do it at our own pace, and both sides need to be patient with each other. And if there is, again, both sides, there shouldn't be both sides. but there currently is. That's the way we are. We have to look at the reality rather than the fiction. Because often I look at the bubble, I look at how I want things to be, and I jump a step too far forwards. I jump to that point where I wish it was all just happy-go-lucky and there was no like confusion. But actually, there's a step before that where actually we have to realize there's a division and bring people through discussion, through education, through spending time, like you said, with people. Like that is a massive thing that if we run away from what's different, we just bubble ourselves and insulate ourselves from learning and realizing that most people that are different are just humans like us who have the same fears, the same worries. And I think the LGBTQ plus discussion is one that's really helping to cover all aspects of that, to realize that through what's gone on in the past, what's currently going on, that actually it's better to show love rather than hate.